What if the common thread running through your worst days has your fingerprints on it? Not as a confession of guilt, but as an invitation to authority. Imagine the last argument that left you hollow. You walked away rehearsing their mistakes, yet a quiet suspicion lingers. Did I feed the fire I now resent? Picture a familiar kitchen night. Plates clink, words tighten, and your tone sharpens by a single degree. The other person stiffens. You double down, believing clarity requires volume. By the end, you feel both righteous and alone. Later, you replay the scene and notice the moment you chose pride over truth. That tiny fork in the road was yours. Here is the uncomfortable insight that liberates. When I am part of the problem, I can become part of the solution. Viktor Frankl called this the last human freedom, choosing one's attitude. Thomas Aquinas would call it ordering the passions to reason, not letting heat drive the chariot. Dostoevsky whispers from the margins, the line dividing good and evil cuts through every human heart. Translation: responsibility is not condemnation, it is creative power. Try a simple practice tonight. Before sleep, pick one prickly memory from today. Ask, without self-hatred, where did I add friction? Where did I subtract courage? Name one tiny act you could have offered instead. A pause, a question, a softer tone, a boundary stated without venom. Then visualize yourself doing exactly that. You are rehearsing virtue, not indulging regret. If this is landing, comment with the sentence, "I am willing to look in the mirror." Like this video and subscribe so these weekly conversations find you when you most need them. We are building a community that chooses growth over grievance. The promise is modest and profound. When you own your slice of the mess, your slice of agency expands. You become less reactive, more steady, and strangely kinder. It is not self-blame. It is self-respect in action. Today, take the mirror not as a verdict, but as a doorway. Before we continue, breathe. Ask yourself, where today did I make things harder than they had to be? Name it gently in the comments, not to confess but to commit. Your honesty will strengthen someone else here. If you found value, share this with a friend who needs calm courage, and subscribe for more steady practice. What if the next time anger rises in your chest, you quietly assume for one brave minute that you are not only a victim of the moment but also an author of it? Hold that assumption like a lit match. It threatens your pride, yet it lights the way. The tension is real. A part of you wants vindication. Another part wants freedom. Which one will you feed? Imagine the same kitchen scene, but with a decisive shift. The words arrive hot, and instead of answering in kind, you breathe as if placing a hand on a wild horse. You say softly, "Give me a second." You look for your footprint in the mud, the sarcasm, the haste, the defensiveness. Then you do something astonishingly small. You lower your voice by a shade, or you ask a clarifying question, or you admit, "I felt threatened and reacted." Notice what happens. The room does not explode. A door appears. Viktor Frankl called that door the space between stimulus and response. Thomas Aquinas would call it a victory of temperance, the emotion bridled by reason so that love can work. Tolstoy shows us in his Families that peace is never accidental. It is built by someone who chooses to step off the escalator of escalation. This is not passivity, it is craftsmanship. Try this experiment for the coming week. Each morning, choose one potential friction point you expect. Traffic, a critical email, a difficult colleague. Write a single sentence. When this happens, I will do that. Keep that promise small. Inhale, count to 4, ask one question, name one feeling, delay 1 hour before replying. In the evening, review with curiosity, not shame. Where did you act as author rather than audience? Here is the promise to picture. If you can imagine yourself changing your part of the pattern, even slightly, the pattern itself becomes less inevitable. Agency grows when imagination rehearses it. You do not need a heroic transformation. You need a repeatable micro-choice. Tension remains, yes, but it becomes useful tension. The kind a bow needs to send an arrow farther than your fear. Practice seeing your influence as a lever, not a whip. A lever moves weight with modest effort. A whip only stings. When you imagine leverage, posture changes. Shoulders drop. Breathing deepens. You can choose a steadier word before the wound. Here is the break from the comfortable story. You are not merely responding to your life. You are rehearsing it. The tone you choose, the questions you avoid, the little rush you get from being right. These are not events. They are patterns you participate in. The ordinary script says your pain proves your innocence. The disruptive insight says your pain proves you are implicated, which is exactly why you can intervene. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable guides. They are weather reports, not legal verdicts. Anger can point to injustice or to pride. Anxiety can signal danger or reveal that meaning has gone missing. Treat emotions as data, then consult your deeper compass before you move. Viktor Frankl would call that compass conscience, the organ of meaning. Thomas Aquinas would say reason must govern passion, if love is to be true love. Here is the unpopular truth. Your reactions are practiced. If you have practiced withdrawal, you will disappear. If you have practiced sarcasm, you will wound. Virtue is not a mood. It is a skill set grown through repetition. Dostoevsky shows this when small compromises corrode a soul and when small repentances rebuild it. So the experiment is plain. Plant one counter-habit seed today. How? First, run a payoff audit. What secret reward do you collect from staying the victim? Moral superiority, avoidance, control without responsibility? Name it. Second, replace but with and in your next tense sentence. I am hurt, and I want to understand. Third, shrink your confession. Describe your contribution in a handful of words, then act differently at the very next fork. Julian Marias reminds us that a person is biography and project, not a static thing. Translation: you are not what happened. You are what you will do with what happened. The shocking normality you disrupt is the reflex that says change begins elsewhere. The freeing abnormality you choose is authorship. When you accept your part, you do not collapse. You compose. Responsibility, seen rightly, is creative authority. Test it in an ordinary moment. The slow cashier, the curt message, the child who ignores your call. Instead of proving your case, prove your character. Ask, what is mine to own here, and what is not? Then act on the answer you respect tomorrow. That is the rupture. You stop waiting. You start building. Quietly, steadily, you become trustworthy to yourself again today. When this idea sounds like moral perfectionism, it helps to borrow wiser eyes. Viktor Frankl, facing conditions that would justify every resentment, insisted that between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space, he says, lives our freedom and growth. In plain words, even when life is brutal, my interior stance is still mine to choose. Thomas Aquinas offers the scaffolding for this. Reason can order our passion, so love aims true. That is not cold control. It is training fire to warm rather than burn. Aristotle calls it habit becoming second nature. We do courageous acts until they shape a courageous person. Modern psychology echoes them. Julian Rotter named it internal locus of control, the sense that my choices matter. Studies on cognitive reappraisal show that how we frame an event alters our emotions and actions. Carol Dweck's growth mindset simply restates an old truth. Character is practiced, not gifted. Literature gives flesh to these claims. Dostoevsky's characters collapse or rise not by luck, but by what they consent to in secret. Tolstoy's families break or heal through tiny choices repeated over ordinary days. Julian Marias says a person is biography and project, meaning we are not only our past but also the road we commit to now. Translated for daily life, owning your slice of any problem is not self-blame. It is agreeing to operate where your power actually is. The paradox is that responsibility feels heavy at first, but lightens everything after, because you stop negotiating with what you cannot control. Try this, drawn from both Aquinas and cognitive science. Before a hard conversation, write 3 short lines. 1 fact I know, 1 interpretation I am making, 1 intention I choose. Keep the fact clean, the interpretation humble, and the intention generous. Then carry the paper into the conversation, or keep it in your pocket as a private compass. You are training your passions to serve what you value. We all know the temptation to narrate ourselves as only harmed or only heroic. The authorities above agree. Both stories are incomplete. You are harmed at times, yes, but you are never only harmed. You are also capable of honesty, repair, and steady care starting today. This is the shared human work. To trade pride for authorship, blame for responsibility, and impulse for intention again and again, until our ordinary moments become the workshop of character together. Some problems do not shout. They hum beneath our routines. They hide inside timing, tone, and tiny omissions. We miss them because they feel like us. Here are common patterns that quietly steer outcomes. The blame loop. I fixate on their fault, which absolves me from adjusting mine. The loop grants moral comfort while making change impossible. The confirmation spiral. I expect disrespect, so I listen for it, respond defensively, and collect proof that I was right. The rescue bargain. I overfunction to feel needed, then resent the very dependence I helped create. The withdrawal tax. I avoid discomfort now and pay interest later through distance, distrust, and dullness. Observe the instruments these patterns play. Timing, interrupting before listening. Tone, a raised eyebrow that says more than words. Omission, what I do not ask, own, or clarify. None of these are crimes, all of them are causes. Viktor Frankl would ask what meaning you are serving when you repeat a pattern. Thomas Aquinas would ask which passion is ruling reason in that moment. Dostoevsky would ask what small lie you are telling yourself. Julian Marias would ask what project these moves are building in your biography. Here is a usable method. Map a recurrent tension with 3 brief sentences. First, trigger, when X happens. Second, my default move, I do Y. Third, unseen payoff, I get Z. Replace the variables in plain language. Then choose one counter move you can repeat this week. Keep it modest, consistent, and measurable by your behavior alone. To help, create a simple scoreboard in your pocket. Draw 3 columns labeled Notice, Pause, Choose. Each time you run the counter, move, make a small mark. At night, review without drama. What worked? What drifted? What might help tomorrow? These dynamics are universal because every human longs for dignity, safety, and belonging. When threatened, we reach for shortcuts, yet shortcuts cost us the very goods we seek. By exposing the patterns, you rescue your agency from autopilot. You are not the villain of your story. You are the author who edits what no longer serves love, truth, and courage. Practice this with tender compassion. Patterns formed to protect you once. They can be retrained to serve you now. Invite a trusted friend to mirror your blind spots and listen without defending. Responsibility becomes lighter when shared. Step by step, your ordinary scenes begin yielding different endings. Truth cuts cleanest when it begins at home. Own your slice, double your agency. Blame feels like relief. Responsibility feels like power. You are not the whole problem. You are the lever. Pain is a signal. It is not a sentence. Reaction is easy. Response is mastery. Between hurt and habit waits a hinge. Choose the door, not the wall. Assume you are involved. Discover you are capable. If your tone can harm, your tone can heal. The smallest pause is often the bravest move. Tenderness is not weakness, it is strength under guidance. Clarity without charity is a hammer. Charity without clarity is fog. Aim for both in that order. Viktor Frankl reminds us that the last freedom is attitude. Claim it before the moment claims you. Thomas Aquinas teaches that passion serves best when yoked to reason. Light the fire and add a hearth. Dostoevsky warns that the line splits every heart. Start the repair where your feet stand. Julian Marias whispers that a person is project. Build the road you intend to walk. Say less to say it better. Trade volume for weight. Ask one honest question, and watch heat lose its oxygen. A soft word can be steel with a satin finish. Courage is a decision long before it is a feeling. Confession shrinks problems to the size you can carry. What you practice, practices you. Rehearse patience until patience remembers your name. Choose presence over performance. Replace but with and to hold truth without tearing it. Assume goodwill until evidence forbids it. Then act with boundaries, not revenge. You do not need to win, you need to be worthy of trust. Here is the move for today. Before a heart exchange, write a single line. When this happens, I will do that. Keep the that small and repeatable. Afterward, review without drama. Name one improvement and one next step. Small, honest steps accumulate into character. The work is humble. The fruit is freedom. Forgiveness is not amnesia. It is releasing the right to retaliate while keeping the right to remember. Boundaries are doors with locks, not walls with spikes. Gratitude does not erase grief. It keeps grief from erasing you. Speak to be understood. Listen to be changed. When unsure, choose honesty over harmony. Real harmony comes afterward. Begin small today. Tomorrow will thank the courage you practice. We live between two magnetic poles, responsibility and compassion. Lean only on responsibility, and you harden into judgment. Lean only on compassion, and you dissolve into excuse. The surprising truth is that growth requires both held together, like voltage across a filament. Heat without light burns. Light without heat does not touch the heart. Consider another pair: acceptance and change. Acceptance says, this is what is. Change says, this does not have to stay this way. When you accept reality, you stop wasting energy on denial. When you commit to change, you direct that freed energy toward action. Viktor Frankl embodied this paradox. He accepted suffering he could not remove, and he transformed himself through the stance he chose. Thomas Aquinas gives the frame. The will seeks the good, reason discerns the means, and the virtues balance our forces so they neither freeze nor flood. Third pair, humility and agency. Humility admits, I am part of the problem. Agency adds, therefore I am part of the solution. Without humility, agency becomes domination. Without agency, humility becomes passivity. Dostoevsky's characters crumble when pride refuses truth. They begin to heal when they confess and act. Julian Marias would say the person is a project, always unfinished, always capable of new direction. Here is a practical drill to weave these pairs. Before a difficult moment, write 3 short lines. What I accept, what I will change, how I will act with both compassion and responsibility. Keep it concrete, a sentence you will speak, a tone you will keep, a boundary you will hold. After the moment, review. Where did I honor acceptance? Where did I honor change? What will I refine tomorrow? Notice the universal heartbeat here. We crave mercy for ourselves and justice for others. The paradox asks us to reverse the pattern. Give justice to yourself in the form of effort, and mercy to others in the form of patience. Over time, the traffic evens. Your courage becomes gentle, your gentleness grows a spine. Hold the pairs like handles, not like theories. In pressure, speak softly and stand firmly. Ask less, why are they like this, and more, who do I choose to be now? That question breeds clarity. In the tension of opposites, character is forged. Practice this today with one person and one situation. Name your pole, name its partner, and act from both. Then observe the different fruit. Here is the quiet payoff for owning your slice of any problem. Life becomes lighter, not because circumstances shrink, but because your capacity grows. When you practice authorship, mornings start with intention instead of dread. You spend less time rehearsing grievances and more time building days you respect. Conflict still arrives, yet it ends sooner and costs less. Sleep deepens. Dignity returns. There is also a practical dividend. Relationships become more predictable in the best way. People notice your steadiness and bring their better selves forward. Trust accumulates like compound interest. You waste fewer hours in repair because you invested minutes in presence. Even your work sharpens. Attention, once tangled in resentment loops, is freed to do actual good. Viktor Frankl would call this the fruit of choosing a stance that serves meaning. Thomas Aquinas would say your passions, trained by reason and love, now pull with you rather than against you. Tolstoy would simply show a household where someone decided to stop escalating. Peace spreads like warm light across a table. Try this immediate experiment, simple and demanding. For the next 7 days, start each morning by claiming one deliberate act of authorship. Keep it small and concrete. Greet your partner first with kindness. Send one clarifying message. Take a brief walk before opening email. Apologize promptly when you miss the mark. At night, write 3 lines. What happened, how you influenced it, what you will tweak tomorrow. Measure reward not by applause, but by inner quiet and clearer outcomes. Here is the promise worth the work. You will like your own company more. Self-respect grows when action aligns with value. Anxiety loses terrain because you are busy doing what you can, not circling what you cannot. You will notice a surprising surplus of energy, since blame is expensive and responsibility is efficient. None of this erases sorrow or injustice. It equips you to bear them without becoming them. The reward is not perfection. It is proportion. You become a person who feels deeply and chooses wisely, who sets honest boundaries without rancor, who can be trusted with power because you start with yourself. That life is possible, and you can practice it today. Begin by choosing one scene to honor with presence, one person to bless with patience, and one task to execute cleanly. Then notice the joy that follows effort. Here is the backbone tying the whole series into one clear map. Think of a simple 4-step loop. Notice, own, order, practice. It is humble and sturdy, drawn from psychology and the great tradition. It keeps freedom alive under pressure. First, notice. Viktor Frankl gives us the space between stimulus and response, and inside that space lives conscience. Notice the story you are telling and the bodily weather that accompanies it. Dostoevsky reminds us that the line runs through every heart, so notice where it runs through yours. Second, own. Humility says, I am part of the problem. Agency adds, therefore I am part of the solution. Owning is not groveling. It is choosing the lever that is already in your hands. Third, order. Thomas Aquinas teaches that reason can guide the passions, so love serves truth. Ordering means naming the good you seek, then harnessing anger, sorrow, and fear to pull with you, not against you. Fourth, practice. Habit is how truth becomes muscle. Repetition, review, and gentle correction turn insight into character. Julian Maria says a person is biography and project. Practice is how biography bends toward a project you respect. Run the loop across ordinary scenes. A tense kitchen, a loaded email, a spiral of harsh self-talk. Notice the trigger, own your footprint, order your aim, practice the next right move. Over days, the loop shrinks drama and grows steadiness. Here is a usable template for your pocket. Write 4 short lines beginning with these words. I notice, I own, I order, I practice. Fill each line with one sentence that you can act on today. Keep the verbs small and visible. For example, I notice my chest tighten in the story that I am disrespected. I own my rising sarcasm. I order my aim toward clarity with charity. I practice a slower tone and one honest question. 2 reviews sustain the loop. A brief evening exam asks what happened, how I influenced it, and what I will try tomorrow. A weekly pause scans for trends. These reviews protect humility without killing hope. Return to the promise. When you accept your part, you recover your power. This framework does not demand perfection. It invites practice. Ask yourself now, which corner needs attention today? Begin there, lightly and firmly. Then share one learning with a friend. Shared language strengthens resolve and steadies daily courage for both. Before we close, take a breath and look inward. If this journey reminded you that you are part of the problem and therefore part of the solution, claim that identity openly. In the comments, write this line: I choose authorship over blame. Tell us one scene where you will practice it today. Your honesty will give someone else courage, and their courage will steady you. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who wants to grow up rather than give up. We are forming a community that values responsibility, compassion, and clear boundaries. Not perfection, but proportion. Carry the central insight like a pocket compass. When you own your slice, you regain leverage. Viktor Frankl names the inner space where that leverage lives. Thomas Aquinas shows how ordering the passions turns fire into warmth. Dostoevsky warns that the fracture runs through every heart, which means repair begins where you stand. Julian Marias reminds us that you are biography and project. This choice edits your story toward the road you intend to walk. Here is today's practice, simple and exact. Sit in silence for 5 slow breaths. Name the scene you will enter. Whisper, I notice, I own, I order, I practice. Decide a tiny move you will repeat. A pause, a question, a boundary, an apology. Then do it once and review tonight with mercy and clarity. Here is the meditation to take with you. What would change if I treated responsibility as creative power rather than private shame? Let the question settle in your chest. Let it soften your jaw and straighten your spine. Let it redirect your next sentence. You will still face sorrow, confusion, and unfairness, yet you will not be helpless. Agency grows quietly through faithful repetition. Over days, you will like the person you are becoming, because your actions will rhyme with your values. Comment your commitment, tag a friend who will hold you kindly accountable, and join us for the next conversation. We walk this road together, steady and brave. If this resonated, like and subscribe so these reflections meet you when the day turns hard. Share this with someone who values truth with tenderness. Write below one virtue you will practice this week and one boundary you will honor. We are the kind of people who choose authorship, forgive wisely, and keep building small, faithful habits in the real world today.